the Saint Mort Show.
Alright guys, I'm here with Dennis of Five Iron Frenzy, the trombone player. I actually just finished watching your guys' new music video.
Which one was this?
The battle dancing.
Yes, with glitter, unicorns.
Glitter. And I have to say, it's because YouTube, you click it and then it's like, oh, here's some other videos to watch. I was like, well, let me watch all the other Five Iron Frenzy videos. And you guys have gotten a lot better at lip syncing.
Oh, have we?
Yes, you have. But it was an awesome video. It's probably... Yeah, I mean, it's tough to top that previous one with Wolverine Abe Lincoln. But,
yes.
But it's definitely a good one. And you have another one coming out, right? I thought I read that you're doing 2 videos this week.
Yes, we released one for the song called Into Your Veins as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so I have to track that one down next.
Yeah, they're, less conceptual. They're more just Into Your Veins. We actually regressed all the way back to band standing in warehouse.
So
playing song in warehouse for some random reason with feeling.
So I'm trying to remember, were you in the band back when they were a metal band, or did you come into the fold right when it became Five Iron Frenzy?
Examator was a 5-piece, and I was not. It had no horns.
Okay.
And so I came on right after they started playing ska. Okay. In the summer of 1995.
You're getting close to 20 years, isn't it?
It is. Almost 20 years.
So you it seemed like over the years you took up a bigger and bigger role writing songs, singing on a couple tracks. I remember you sang Second Season and a few other stuff. And then
yes. And I sang Beautiful America.
Stuff.
I sang Beautiful America on the first record. Second Season
still
was
my
mine.
favorite Five Iron song.
Oh, no kidding.
It's always been my favorite song.
Are you a Leonard Bernstein fan?
I am.
Well, there you go.
I like musicals, so.
There you go.
I like musicals and hip-hop, so that combination was perfect.
I think my role in the band has always been as an orchestrator, and I always listen to... I listened to a ton of Bernstein, Aaron Copland. I named my son Copland. That's how much I like that guy. So I listened to a lot of orchestral. I listened to a lot of, big band growing up and stuff like that. So horn arrangements were kind of my angle. So when I came in, I started bringing in harmonies and counter melodies, and I think that was always my contribution.
Well, I think it became a big part of what made you guys stand out, because not even just in the Christian realm of things, ska bands, I feel like, despite having 7 or 8 members, usually only had 1 or 2 guys that did vocals, whereas you look at a Five Iron song and there's parts where there's 5 or 6 people harmonizing. Right,
especially lately, our vocal textures are getting really thick, and I think it's really neat that we had a lot of influences and a lot of depth and a lot of texture. Just because there's so many contributors to the writing and so many points of view.
Well, and you were, if I recall, I think you were one of the ones that was the most vocal around the points of when Electric Boogaloo came out of, was Chicago a ska band because it was a band with horns? No. And I think that that's what made you guys also really stand out, is that you managed to keep all your members without staying the same sounding ska band for 7 or 8 years. You evolved into this rock with horn section sound, which definitely made you guys... I think that that's what made Five Iron Frenzy 2, Electric Boogaloo, and the new album so memorable to people, is that it was so different to what every other ska band was putting out around that time.
Well, that's cool. We've always tried to play what is interesting to us, and... the ska sound just didn't feel so relevant to us at the time. I think, there was a period of time where ska was just kind of shoved down everybody's throat. Yeah. And, it just seemed like not very interesting to us at the moment. So we were exploring different things. And, we were listening to a lot of Rocket from the Crypt and bands like that, where the horns were just kind of this big smoking wall of sound that was just kind of part of the tapestry of the music, and that I think that really struck me. I like that, as opposed to this kind of rinky-dink, silly beboppy thing happening over the top. They're actually part of the song. Down in it, and they're gritty and dirty, and that kind of inspired me. So this new record, you notice the horns are down in the mix and kind of were part of the grit, and I like that.
And this is weird to say, but I think that you kind of showed that in the actual album artwork, especially in Electric Boogaloo. It was such a, compared to the animated, bright colored album covers of the past, it was this black and white, gritty, instruments all dirty in a desert area, crumpled together look, and that those images really do kind of match the sound.
Yeah, and then there's a song called Eulogy on it. So, we were definitely starting to play with the whole idea of, post-rock and and there's a kind of a joke going on because we're juxtaposing this super bleak imagery with one of the silliest opening songs we've ever done, and then and then this silly yellow CD with a badly drawn smiley face on it. So there's a joke in the middle of it all, and I think the whole thing was a backlash because we were packaged as just super silly joke band almost from the beginning, fun for all ages and just goofy, and so I think we kind of enjoyed having kind of a seriousness to us, and I guess maybe we've been trying to compensate for that image
well,
at the beginning.
You definitely made it hard for Christian bookstores to find the secular component to compare you to, like they did with every other artist.
Yeah, well, it's not like we're killing small animals on stage or anything like that, but we're just trying to, we're just trying to say, but seriously, folks, and we're still funny, we still laugh a lot, we're still, stupid on stage, but I guess artistically, we were just trying to, bring some bleakness across to counteract the silliness of the early years.
Bring a little bit more every new day and a little less kitty doggy on a couple of records.
Yeah. But I'm probably forcing a segue, but the artwork of this latest record is really significant, actually. It's I think we were just kind of being bleak for the sake of being bleak with Electric Boogaloo. Because it was called Electric Boogaloo, and then the imagery was this super postmodern,
but the album work
tired image.
Kind of told a story, and I think that's what I liked.
Yeah.
Is that each, if you really sit down and you look at the artwork and the layout of all the albums and the music that matches them, it makes sense. There's no super awkward why is this matched up with this album?
Right.
And I think that's cool. I thought the end is near as, it was a cartoony comic book, but it told the story. It told a story of the end.
Right.
Question mark now at the end of the end. But it was a package. It was wrapping up everything in a neat little box of this was this band and this is what we did, and I like that album because it's like a breakup album with no regrets in it.
Yeah. If you're going to break up, that's a great way to do it. And I guess if we're talking about artwork, we knew that Doug TenNapel was going to do caricatures of us all and make us into superheroes, and he was telling the story. So we tried to do these super saturated, contrasty, vibrant shots of each band member in the same vein. So that's kind of what we were doing with that. But with this latest record, Engine of a Million Plots, it's really neat because there are themes that run throughout the entire record. You'll hear a lot of talk about frost and thaw, keeping a fire alive even though it's winter, and storms. There's a lot of talk about storms, and the imagery on the cover is this super after the disaster kind of cityscape where everything's imploded and there's this small group of figures huddling around this tiny campfire, and the fire in the middle is the only thing in color, and it's representative of faith. I think the whole thing is a discussion about faith and keeping it alive. It's something precious, and all around us we hear stories of people losing their faith, or people with faith suffering, enduring hardship. And so the whole record is really a conversation about where we're at and maintaining faith, what it means to maintain hope and faith.
Yeah, I was going to say there's something that that Andrew said when I was talking to him earlier that kind of became my favorite definition of Five Iron. He was saying that he never, Five Iron is a Christian band, but he said that they're, more than anything, the message of Five Iron has always just been hope and love in every album and every song. And I was like, that's like, when I think about it, I'm like, that is the two themes that from album one to the newest album, I feel like have always been consistent, was that even in the bleakness of a song like Car, or like, there's still this constant feeling of hope that you can get through it and
it's
be
true.
Strong.
I think that's a universal truth. I think for 6 of us in the band, we would take it one further and say faith, hope, and love. Yeah. And at the center of that is faith, and that's the strength. That's the rebar that holds it all together. That reinforces the hope and love. But those are the central elements to this band. And honestly, we get together once a month and play these shows because we love each other. Like we make each other laugh. It's fun, And
I was talking to him about that. Like, how many other bands can you think of that have 8 members in it, or 8 or 9 members in the entire history of the band that are still as close 20 years later?
Not many.
Like, there's 3-piece bands that have new members every album.
Yeah, it's true. And a lot of bands we've toured with, they don't talk to each other, they don't travel together, they kind of show up on stage and interact, and then go their separate ways. So we definitely hang together, so it's pretty cool.
I think it's important to treat it like, there's 1 or 2 ways to treat it. You treat it like it's a business and a job, or you treat it like this is a bunch of friends hanging out. Yeah. And I mean, if it was me, I would prefer to do the friends hanging out every single time.
No, I've I do music professionally. For my career, and this band is for fun, strictly, and I think it is for everybody, and it makes it different. Like, we're not trying to kiss up to the gatekeepers in the record stores or anything like that. I mean, sure, we'd love to have new fans and sell some records, but we're really doing this just to make ourselves laugh, and because we love the people that have come out and seen us over the years.
Well, and I know that one of the big things on the Rise and Fall of Five Iron Frenzy documentary that pretty much all of you expressed at least some level of displeasure of was feeling pigeonholed with who you could tour with, and feeling like you were kind of stuck playing with the same 5 or 6 bands and wanting to not tour exclusively with Christian bands so much. And it seems like since the reunion, you've been doing just that. You've been going on tours with non-Christian bands and playing not specifically Christian shows. I assume that comes with being a self-released band. Am I incorrect in that assumption?
No, I think that's a theme that definitely comes across. Actually, when I saw it, it kind of made me sad because I felt like we were complaining. Frank Tate and 5 Minute Walk he's an amazing guy, and it was an amazing label.
Oh, and you can understand why he made the decisions that he made. Like, it wasn't like he was purposely holding you down. He's running a business.
He had an economy of scale. We were helping promote bands that were on his label, and they're great friends of ours. They were some great shows, and I'm thankful for them. We all are.
You played probably one of the coolest shows I've ever attended, because it was the most unique lineup I've ever seen live, which was when it was you guys, Soul Junk, Fillmore, and W's, because you couldn't find 5 less similar people.
Yeah, and that's a pretty weird bill. I was actually playing bass for Soul Junk on that tour, and that was a weird bill.
But it's still, to this day, my friends and I all talk about that show, because it was unlike it. For years that I did concert promoting, that was the basis of the shows. Was why book 5 bands that sound the same when you can book 5 bands that don't sound like each other at all?
Well, that's true.
I mean,
they do have a common thread. There's a sense of humor to all 4 of those bands. They all had a point of view. Then. Yeah, they all had a point of view that was it's the tone of the bands that were kind of similar, even though one was hipster hop, one was a recovering ska band, one was sort of swing, and one was kind of a faux metal band.
Yeah.
And, you put us all together, and it actually made for a fairly cohesive show. I mean, I've been on bills where it's acoustic guy opening for
death metal,
and that was weird.
I've been the acoustic guy opening for death metal
it's
on
hard.
many occasions.
And if they're here,
it's extra work to win over that audience.
It's true. If they're there to see death metal, they really don't want to see singer-songwriter singing about his girlfriend. So they want him to go away. But no, that was a fun show.
And like on paper, you'd be like, "Oh, Soul Junk and Fireburn, that's a match made in heaven." It's like, no, not really. But like with all the other group, like somehow it gelled really well. And I mean, and Reliant K being your opening act, like. It's so weird to think about now.
Switchfoot. We played Cornerstone in, I guess it would have been 1999 or 98. It would have been 98. And we were playing an encore tent, which means we had unlimited time.
Yeah.
And we packed out this tent, and Switchfoot was not even given a slot to play at Cornerstone that year.
Which is, I'm sure they're kicking themselves now in retrospect.
Well, and we were just like, okay, this is ridiculous. These guys are amazing. And so in the middle of our set, we just said, hey guys, these are friends of ours. They're going to play some songs. And Switchfoot came up and played 5 songs. I mean, how ironic is that?
Yeah.
2 years later, they're on Sony and in film soundtracks. Yeah.
He recently, I think it was about a year ago, he had that, what I thought was an incredible essay of I'm Not a Christian Artist. Where he was, basically just saying, like, look, is a janitor who's a Christian janitor, or is he just a janitor?
It's an old dialogue, and we've always, pretty much I would say most musicians that have done what we've done, they wince when they hear that phrase, Christian artist, Yeah, so yeah.
It's definitely, it's definitely immediately throwing a rope around you and being like, well, now you're going to have trouble getting in touch with the people that you really want to get in touch with.
Right, because, art is an expansive, especially music, it's an expansive medium. And to be pigeonholed, it doesn't matter what you say or how you say it, you're going to be in this bin with Twyla Paris and
getting stuck with weird censorship. Like, you guys had, I love Brave Saint Saturn, and Brave Saint Saturn had a nice handful of kind of just weird censors to words like whore and hell.
Yeah, that was my song. How cool is that?
Yeah, I love that song. That's probably one of my favorite Brave Saint Saturn songs, and yet it's one of those things where it's like every time I listen to it, you have that chuckle and eye roll where there's a record scratch over top of a word, and you're just kind of like...
And the thing is that as an artist, how can you depict the grittiness of watching a meth deal go on outside your apartment in the King's English? You know what I mean? I was there, and it was disturbing, it was sad, it was gritty, it was gross, and it was profane.
Yeah.
And I think I actually deliberately used those words because I think it made me, it put me in the situation as opposed to which to me means credibility.
Yeah.
And I don't make a point of swearing just for the sake of swearing.
No, it should have
I don't even really
it.
think I was swearing. I mean, when I'm quoting,
is not exactly.
Yeah, and I'm quoting someone that says "go to hell." I mean, it's not like I'm telling somebody to do that. It's a quote, and so. Anyway, as an artist, I feel like it wasn't me just trying to offend people. I was just really trying to be true to the situation, and I felt like those words were right.
Do you feel like there's a because I've noticed more and more, it's kind of this weird situation where there's a lot of bands from that 90s Christian heyday of when Tooth and Nail was this unstoppable force, and 5 Minute Walk was right behind them on their tail. Now there's a lot of those groups that are getting a lot of press quote unquote for saying words in their songs. Sufjan Stevens and POD recently, and Pedro the Lion. And you think that there's what I always find the most interesting is not only are they using they're going way further than hell and whore in those songs, but it's on what is arguably the most blatantly Christian albums that they've put out. I know the POD album that came out 2 years ago, Murdered Love, was, you listen to that album, it's like there's no subtlety. They are very upfront about what they are preaching about in those songs, and then the last song they say "motherfucker" 6 times, and it's kind of like, well, where, like how does that happen? Like, it's kind of one of those things that's surreal to me, because I could understand it if it was like, oh no, they're really out of this thing and they don't really sing about that stuff anymore, trying to like prove that they're not that group anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, I know I had Zach from May on the podcast, and he was telling me how when May was asked to do a cover song, they went out of their way to pick 9 Inch Nails, because they wanted to let people know, like, we are not a Christian band. We're a band with some Christian members that happen to get signed on a Christian label. But that doesn't seem to be the case with the POD album, or with the Gabriel Lion album, or even the Sufjan Stevens album.
Yeah, I mean, those are all really, really different example.
Very different.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Bazan, like I think he's actually had it with that scene. I don't think he's there personally, and so it's like that whole record is definitely a backlash against the Christian stamp, and he's just not there. And Sufjan was never. I mean, he's on Asthmatic Kitty. He never.
Like, he just kind of got weirdly pulled in there from being related to, like, part of the Danielson family.
Well, yeah, and those guys are from around here. He's as far as I know, he was a believer, and he's saying what he believed in, but he never was on a Christian label, and so I don't know where he's at, but I think he's just being true to his art as well, and true to himself.
And I think that's the weird line, is like, as an artist, you have like this, like, for me as a writer, I know I want to depict reality.
Yeah.
And if you're writing a film about college kids, like, writing it with this PG, jolly Willikers type language is it's unreal. It's not, you're not being authentic in your art anymore. You're
like, I'm no scholar of Hebrew, but I know that the book of Jeremiah is a gritty book.
Yeah.
And I know that he uses heavy words. They may not be the F-bomb, but he uses imagery that is, he talks about Israel being a harlot. That's not a sweet word.
Yeah.
That's not a Christian bookstore's word. And, so I'm not saying you should go out of your way to use coarse language.
Yeah.
I don't think that's particularly biblical either. So if there's no reason to, why do it? That's just, to me, is a sign of ignorance. But, like, if you need a heavy word to say what you need to say, you got to use a heavy word,
Yeah, I remember hearing, I think I read that Sonny explained that the song that they were writing was from the perspective of a kid that you were trying to preach to after a bunch of terrible things had happened to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, that kid's not going to be like, who the heck is Jesus?
Yeah.
And like, that makes, like, that to me is that line between art and being caught being caught in a industry. It's like, well, that's a little too real.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, I think that's the accusation against a lot of Christian art, is that it's just fake.
Yeah.
Because it's been polished up to meet the approval of people that would be offended at hearing a bad word. And I think authentic, real art puts you in that situation. It brings you there,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's what it's about. And it's not just words, it's the whole overall tone.
Yeah.
It's having bleak, disturbing pictures. Not disturbing, but things that are real and gritty and
people don't want to. That was one of the things. I know I already said this to Andrew, but it's one of the things that drew me to groups like you and Calbretto, even as a kid, was that you didn't always depict. You depicted a realistic version of becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, you become a Christian and everybody loves you and life is just handed to you on a platter. It's like, no. People that you love are still going to die unexpectedly, and you're still going to find yourself questioning your faith very frequently when bad things happen.
Which is very true for
pretty much every member of the band, right? I feel like there's a large chunk of. I've read various accounts that while right now it's 6 Christian members, that there was points where each one of you had a moment or two where you were just like, I don't know about this anymore.
Well,
I don't know all of it, but I've heard a couple stories of a few other members.
Listen, I think if somebody claims to have faith but never has a crisis where they have to test that faith, I don't think they're really thinking about it very much.
Yeah.
For Andy, for instance, he lost a brother and a father, one right after the other, and I know that his crisis in faith happened right after that, understandably so, and his faith has come up short since then. But we believe that. I think God has a hold of him. I think that personally, but
we'll see. Time will tell.
Time will tell. We love him either way. He's a great guy,
and that's what he told me was I wouldn't be here if they weren't. Family. They're loving and compassionate family.
Yeah,
and
that's the truth.
And it's really cool to hear that when you see so many. We live in a world that was exposed to behind the music.
Yes,
and you're so used to seeing the band that just bickers and falls apart and hates each other and no one speaks to each other
or breaks one another's arms backstage like Leonard Skinner,
Or I just read like Gene Simmons once referred to his bandmates as crack addicts and losers. It's just kind of like, yeah, you're not those guys. That's good to know that Fire and Frenzy is not those guys towards each other.
No, that's cool, right? I mean, if nothing else, even if you don't like our music, I think that that's something I'm proud of.
One of the friendliest bands out there.
I don't know if we're friendly, but at least we love each other,
Now, I guess there's a question that's definitely been on my mind, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's wondered this, but is there going to be another album? Has that been a conversation that's happened, or is this still kind of just a one-time thing that you're just seeing how far it goes?
We've talked about it, yeah. I mean, I personally don't think we would do a Kickstarter again. I think people would roll their eyes and run us out of town.
Which I'll tell you what, I have not celebrated a Kickstarter quite like that one.
I mean,
just waking up one morning, hearing that it was announced, going to get, I think I went to see the Muppets, and then I came back and I was like, oh my god, they got their goal already.
It was about 50 minutes. 5-0, and we were seriously wondering if we could hit that goal. We're like, well, maybe we should make the goal lower. I don't know, but really to fly everybody to New York and put us up for a week and hire this producer and do all this stuff, that's really what we need. So
I, as a fan, just putting myself in your shoes, got emotional. Because there was a part of me that was thinking about all the stuff that I do and the writing that I do and feeling like, okay, if I do a kick, because I've talked about it on the show before, sometime soon I will be doing a Kickstarter for a movie. And
good for you.
And I feel like I can't imagine what that feeling is going to be like if it reaches its goal. Yeah. And then I think about you guys, and it's like this group that was together for a really long time, and then they haven't done anything for years. Just kind of on a whim deciding to try this, and to have that much outpouring of love that quickly.
Well,
it's just this infectious, no, we've missed you and we haven't forgotten you.
Well, that was overwhelming because, our music was important to some people. I don't think we overestimated ourselves, but it was a big deal, and it was our way of life, and it meant a lot to us. And to walk away from it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I, for one, was. I had to find what my purpose in life is, because I feel like that's one of the things is that I communicated to people through this music. I encouraged people in their faith through my band, and then when that was gone, it was really left a void. And then 8 years later, I was convinced, and everybody else was, that people had just forgotten. We're irrelevant. People have moved on. Most of the people that used to listen to Five Iron are embarrassed about it. They've moved on. We're not cool anymore.
Yeah.
And then to have that kind of a response was just utterly overwhelming.
Yeah, I have no way of even comprehending.
It's mind-blowing.
How that would feel.
Yeah.
Do you look back on the last 8 years as man, I wish we didn't break up, or you kind of was it a much needed restart?
Oh, no, it needed to happen.
Okay.
No. And we reached an impasse. We all went on a retreat and we talked it out.
Yeah.
Some of the people wanted to work harder. Some of the people wanted to work less. We had the full gamut of what people wanted to do. And we had to come to an agreement. And we're just like, you know what? We have 3 options. Do this as a hobby every now and then, or keep doing what we're doing
or just
forever,
stop it all,
or go for it and try to end up on Letterman, or quit. And we decided to quit.
Do you think that this would be happening now if it wasn't for that DVD? Like, was that something that kind of put things into conversation, or do you think that this would have naturally happened with or without?
The DVD didn't help at all.
Oh, it didn't?
If anything, the DVD was detrimental.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, it started the process.
Like, I was going to say, I feel like it should, like, did it at least start the process of conversation?
Oh, yeah, sure. I guess, yeah, because we interacted with one another, and that happened, you know. And then, so, yeah, I guess I'm going back on what I said. It did start the process, then it hit a screeching halt because of the way it came out. And then probably another year after that, we got together once again.
Okay.
And that's when we started talking about stuff.
All right. Well, I know you guys got to start setting up because the show's probably starting soon. So I know you do some other projects as well besides Five Iron if you want to advertise them real quick.
Well, most of them are defunct. I was in a really great band with one of the members of the old band Spitfire. We were called Rome, and we did an EP, and I really, really like it. And so I did that, and I still play. I play in a church band and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Vocationally, I make music for advertising. So, I mean, I have my outlets, but definitely my artistic outlet right now is Fire and Frenzy.
Nice.